Welcome everybody to the Between Two Wheels podcast. This is the What the Just Happened edition. Well, stages 7 through 10 completed. It's a rest day. We're going to get you up and running just when you thought you knew and you can start predicting what's going to happen. Now, the tour gets shaken on its head. You realize this is the Tour de France. Things happen. We'll do 7 through 10 stage updates, some results, analysis on those, some things that make you go, some ins and outs of the tour. We'll also do the next week's preview of the stages to come. Look, it's crazy. It's the Tour de France. It's what you enjoy. We're right in the meat of it, about halfway through in miles. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, we had stage 6, which is La Planche de Belfi. It was the big climb. It was when we were going to see the GC favorites, the general classification, just shake everything up. We're going to have Alaphilippe spit out the back. We're going to have Bernal going way off the front. None of that happened. Alaphilippe holds yellow. We have Bernal staying in there. Geraint Thomas staying in there. We had Romain Bardet going out the back. We had Pinot going up the front. Things were taken into shape, and then we saw some interesting things take place the next day. So we come into stage 7. It's going to be a little bit more relaxed. EF Education First had lost a little bit of time with Rigoberto Urán and Mike Woods. They lost a bunch of time for TJ Van Garderen, so TJ is looking to be helping the team out. They come into stage 7. Stage 7, Belfort to Chalon-sur-Saône, 230 kilometers, longest day of the tour. This was last Friday. It turned out to be, as these are, you could tune in for maybe the last 3 kilometers. Wow, that was an exciting stage. If you tune in for the whole 230 kilometers, maybe the most boring stage of the tour. Well, not for everybody. Early on, we saw a crash by EF Education First American rider TJ Van Garderen. He finished the stage. He looked like he had been a prop in a Siegfried and Roy extravaganza gone wrong. He was just cut up from head to toe. Evidently, he had a broken thumb. He ended up making it through that day, long day, because this happened early on in the stage, but he ended up having to abandon the next day. So due to his lost skin, his broken wrist, it was a no-go. He was disappointed. He'd been looking well, at least for helping. TJ had come out and had some comments of always like, well, you never know about me. Like, the reality was, as soon as Planche de Belfi happened, he was always going to be a support rider. And, Urán with he and Woods, that could be a very good support for Urán. TJ's out, and then we'll have to see what EF Education could do. Hold your horses, because they play a prominent role in the decision-making of this whole race up until now. Maybe the most decisive till now. We'll talk about that coming up. All right, to the finish of stage 7. This one was a little bit more interesting. So DeQuinta Quick-Step, they have this dominant lead out for Viviani coming into the last few K. They get to the last 3. All the GC riders start to move, towards the middle of the back in that wash machine area. DeQuinta Quick-Step comes up to the front, and Dylan Groenewegen still in there. He has Mike Tunison. Caleb and Sagan are kind of going solo. Sonny Cabrelli's there. But in the end, about 250 to go, Dylan Groenewegen, about 5th or 6th back, jumps hard on the left. He was on Caleb Ewing's wheel. Caleb decides to go to the right. As Groenewegen almost comes up even with Viviani. Viviani jumps. Then Sagan's going. But in the end, it's just a 2-man sprint between Groenewegen and Caleb Ewing. They blow the field away. They get a bike length lead on Sagan. And in the end, it's Dylan Groenewegen, Caleb Ewing, and then Peter Sagan with Sonny Cabrelli, Jasper Philipsen, UAE team. Look, this kid that was on, I think, Action Berman last year. So he's first tour, comes out from the lower ranks. He's doing well. Nizzolo gets up there. Viviani, though, in 6th place. Viviani said later on, look, I had a slow leak. I had like 50 PSI in my front tire, so I was having a leak, and I wasn't really able to sprint. Interesting than that, and then I saw someone with a close-up picture of him during the sprint, and his tires both look well inflated. Now, if you have a tire half done, like 50 PSI, should you maybe not be having your team lead you out? Isn't that a little dangerous in the sprint to be having a 50 PSI front wheel knowing the full dangers that can happen. You're taking some corners and up and running and sprinting. I think I just call bullshit. BS. I think that he was just trying to find an excuse for not having the legs to compete. Wait till stage 10. I'm interested to see his excuses for that. So in the end, you finally see Groenewegen get the win. And you know what I like? If you've looked at the helmets that the sprinters have for Jumbo-Visma, they have their first name on the top of the helmet. So it says Dylan. You can pick them out. Dylan, Mike. So it's kind of cool. It's a new little thing, and it's in pretty big, bold letters. So if you take a look at that, you're at least able to find those riders. And maybe the guys on NBC coverage could use that to make sure they get the calls just right. General classification. You did have Ciccone. Remember, we thought Alaphilippe would lose a bunch of time. He did lose enough time on stage 6 to get out of the yellow. Ciccone ends up with that, but just by 6 seconds or so. So he's in the yellow jersey. Alaphilippe in second at 6 seconds. Dylan Teuns in third at 32 seconds. Then George Bennett, 47 seconds. Geraint Thomas, Bernal, all the big hitters up there and running. Stage 8, Macon to Saint-Etienne, 199 kilometers. This was Saturday's stage. Deceptively climbing stage, almost like a traditional mountain stage with all the climbing. I think somewhere, close to 13,000 feet of full on climbing, but it just had a bunch of lower category climbs. Cat 2, a Cat 2, a Cat 2, a 3, a 2, a 2, and a 3. 7 categorized climbs, time bonuses for the last category 3, and then again at the finish. So a ton of climbing. And what that stage saw was Thomas de Gendt gets out there in a breakaway with Demarchi, also Ben King. They end up dispelling Ben King at one point. It's just Demarchi and Thomas de Gendt. In the end, those two going off, de Gendt then dispatches of Demarchi, and he's off solo. What you saw behind, though, was about 13, 15K to go. The field is on. I mean, the sprinters are they're spit out the road off the pack. So it's going to come down to who of these like Sagan, Michael Matthews kind of guys can do it, and maybe we'll be able to catch Thomas de Gendt. He's minute plus out. It's really close in there. There's going to be this Cat 3 climb up to the in the last 10K, and then the descent down, and then into the finish. There's a few little more risers there. So the idea is it's going to be on. And you saw EF Education First really drive in the front there. I think they had it in mind to have Mike Woods taking a little attack there, kind of like you saw on stage 3 with Alaphilippe. When he went with him, tried to and didn't go to catch up with him. However, this time, Mike Woods does play a prominent part. Once again, he comes around a corner, right-hand corner. His wheels totally slide out. He's just said it's all his fault. It just happens. But right on his wheels were most of the Ineos team, and Moscon goes down onto Woods, and then you have Geraint Thomas slamming into back of him. Matter of fact, he gets high-sided and actually leaps out over his bike. And the photo before he hits the ground looks pretty bad, but I think he was able to kind of land on his feet and almost run it out. They immediately get Geraint Thomas back up and running. Kwiatkowski does the nice thing and puts the chain on and pushes him off. I think that's the thing you do. That way you don't have to actually help chase. Everyone from Ineos comes back, bar Bernal. Bernal stays up with the front group, which he should do. The whole Ineos team just hammers it. Mike Woods is not able to get back up in time. He loses a few minutes that day, 2-3 minutes. I think it was like 2:30. But the Ineos team drives it on. They get Thomas to, before the climbs, the last Cat 3 climb, they get him right near there. Wout pulls the last one, gets him a few hundred meters there. He closed that gap himself. Bernal stays up in the front. Then what you had on the climb, oh, by the way, Moscon's bike was snapped in like 2 or 3 pieces. And you're like, this looks a little odd from the actual wreck itself, that his bike, what kind of precariously built bikes are these? Well, I saw a video later where from the commissar's car, they come around the corner and Moscon's bike's in the road. It looks like they run over it. Looks like they don't even attempt to get out of the way. They're not going that fast. They just boom right over his bike. It looks like maybe that's the reason for his, it's going to be harder to have your bike in full pieces, one piece, if a car runs over it rather than just wrecking into the back of Mike Woods. There was some little comments about Geraint Thomas, kind of complaining about Mike Woods. And my thought is, why are you riding behind Mike Woods? Actually, I even heard Vauders was saying, why is Geraint Thomas on the wheel of a guy that was just new to cycling, former runner? Now, look, all these guys should be able to corner just fine. And it looked like Woods just slipped out, didn't catch a pedal. It just maybe balance. For some reason, it happens. Either way, Thomas looked very impressive getting back up there. Needless to say, while he's finally catching up to the group, that's when Alaphilippe, on the top of that climb, kicks over the top. He gets a bonus time, a second, going over, and the only one that goes with him is Pinot. Pinot ends up going with him. Then those two take the harrowing descent. And they have one of the best descenders in Alaphilippe and one of the most notorious descenders in Thibaut Pinot several years ago. I think he was taking mental coaching. He was doing all kinds of exercises, trying to shred these demons of his descending. He just had horrible time going downhill. Matter of fact, he may not even be able to survive, not literally, well, possibly that too, but he may not be able to continue on in the pro peloton because he's so unable to descend, but he's definitely got over that. He's able to hold in the wheels. They were not able to bring Thomas de Gendt back. And in the end, it was one of the most fantastic days in racing. Thomas de Gendt holds off for the win. You had teams from behind, and we'll get into some of this little issues that happened with the chasing, but Thibaut Pinot comes in second. Alaphilippe comes in third, still gets enough time bonus to take over the yellow jersey. So you had those top three guys, all of them basically gaining something and winning on the day. Thomas de Gendt gets the stage win. He's loving that. Thibaut Pinot gets 20-30 seconds on Geraint Thomas and all the other GC favorites. He's loving that. Alaphilippe gets to be back in the yellow jersey for coming up for Bastille Day, the 14th of July. So everyone is kind of a winner on that day as far as those guys go. However, let's take a look at what was happening from behind. EF Education first. They're on the front driving this thing, trying to bring the whole group back for Mike Woods. Mike Woods wrecks before he's able to launch an attack a la Alaphilippe style over the last climb. That didn't work out for them. Trek chased in hoping to get Ciccone back into yellow to bring back Alaphilippe. They weren't able to do it, but you only had Ciccone. Actually, he was on the front chasing himself, and you had Bauke Mollema. He was doing the work. Richie Porte was not willing to take it. Is that a bit of controversy? I mentioned before that I think this is Trek's biggest accomplishment so far of the season. I think they have hardly any wins, maybe 5. One of the biggest accomplishments of the season is Ciccone. I mean, he did well at the Giro, but obviously getting in the yellow jersey here at this race. And then we see on today on stage 10, kind of Richie Porte doing what Richie Porte does, making mistakes. So would it have been better that Richie maybe helped chase a little bit? Possibly so. He didn't do that. What did we learn? Pinot learns to descend. De Gendt can motor. Michael Matthews won the field sprint for 4th, and perhaps this was his best chance of getting a stage win. Once again, slipped through his fingers, not being able to pull those brakes back, and then not also being able to pull the rest of the guys back that were up the road. All right, top 3 benefited, like I said. Ciccone out of yellow. The results, Thomas de Gendt first, Pinot 6 seconds back in second, Alaphilippe the same time, and then 26 seconds back to Michael Matthews. But we said there were some time bonuses split out there along the way. So the GC comes out at Alaphilippe in first, 23 seconds to Ciccone, 53 to Pinot, George Bennett, 110, and everyone else still smattered along the way. As we've discussed, no one losing much time as far as that day from the GC favorites. Sunday, we had Saint-Étienne to Brioude, 170 kilometers. Look, normally we have Monday being the first rest day, but this year it's on Tuesday. So these guys, they're getting more fatigued, but you expected after the hard riding that they had done on stage 8, the stage 9 was probably going to have a breakaway, and it didn't fail to have that. The break ends up for the day 16 plus minutes, but most of the day it's 14 minutes up or 10 minutes up the road or so. Pretty good size breakaway. You had some of the Tish Benoit, Daryl Impey of Mitchelton Scott, Tish Benoit of Soudal Lotto, or is it Lotto Soudal? I don't know. It's been announced both ways. Nicholas Roach, Sunweb team was up there. Roach and Tish get up the road a little bit near one of the last few climbs. Dale Impey skates across to it. He gets up to it nice and fine. Then he starts just driving the pace along. Next thing you know, Tish is on the front on a climb. They get rid of Nicholas Roach. It's kind of surprising. And it's just those two to come out to the end. Look, Benoit he won Strada Bianca last year with, came up in that one with Romain Bardet. Very good rider. You'd think he'd have won a bunch more races just by the way he races, but a little lacking on that. But Daryl Impey is a guy that you see him mixing it up. I think at stage 1, he was in the top 10 for the sprints. So he can get up there with the main sprinters if he's in the right position. He has a nice kick. He gets over these climbs well. He's kind of a second tier, I don't want to say Sagan, but Michael Matthews type maybe. Point is, he has a finish. And when it came down to it, there was nothing Tish could do. He starts to sprint out, and Impey just immediately puts a bike length or two on him, and they both stand up. Benoit's actually able to just comes in behind him, and Daryl Impey's able to post up. The rest of the field comes in, what do we have, 16 plus minutes back. And when they came in, they were all just rolling in nice and easy over the line. So no change in the overall, but you had Daryl Impey first place, Tish Benoit in second, 10 seconds behind them was Jan Tratnik, Oliver Nason, Jesper Stuyven, Nicholas Roach, Soler. Almost everybody was represented up in that break at some point. I think UAE was maybe the only team that wasn't. Rui Costa did try to get across to the group, and I guess right when he was about 20, 30 seconds from getting there, you had Daryl Impey and some of these other guys on the front just kind of driving it against Stuyven, and he was not able to make connection. Pretty disappointing day for him, but it's the way it was. You can't let Rui Costa get up there because he's the guy that can finish at multiple world championships. I mean, he's won a bunch of stages in the Tour, so that's not a guy you want messing around. Overall, didn't change. Alaphilippe, Ciccone, Pinot, Bennett, Thomas Bernal, Kreuzwick, Rigoberto Urán, 138, and this comes down to today. Well, stage 10 Monday. With stage 10 on Monday, you had 218 kilometers, Saint Flour to Albi. It had some pitches in it, some climbing stuff, but what you had mostly was going to be, what's going to happen on a day before the rest day? Guys are hoping to just get to the finish. But with that, just hoping to get to the finish is you got a rest day the next day. So some people are really willing to unload the tank as well. There was rumors of crosswinds happening. Oh, I forgot to mention, Dimarshy, he, like I said, he was in the break with Dugant the day before, comes in yesterday. He wrecks early on, head down on the ground. I didn't see the wreck, but I saw the aftermath, watching it on TV, about 150K still to go. And he's face down on the ground. They say he didn't lose consciousness, but he broke his collarbone. He broke some other stuff. And maybe, I don't know if he hurt his head, but he would look like there was some blood pooling out. So haven't had a real big exodus of people in this race. And we could maybe talk about why that is the case coming up. Back to stage 10. They're riders that there is a breakaway up the road, but they're always kept within a leash. And you saw about 50K to go. Team Ineos goes on the front, and they try to start to kind of split it up. It doesn't happen. EF Education does something like that too. So everyone's on edge because last 20, 30K, you know that there's a big crosswind. There's a little bit, still some undulation, and all hell breaks loose with about 20K to go. EF Education first comes to the front. They are just absolutely drilling it. They're going up this little climb. They're coming down, spinning out. They're doing everything you can do. And the field is kind of breaking apart. But suddenly they go around a roundabout. They take another corner, and there is a massive sort of separation and a big time crosswind. You all of a sudden see Ineos at the front. You see Quick Step at the front, and you see a massive amount of pink from EF Education first, way back, getting split out. I don't know what the heck happened, but what inevitably you find out is Thibaut Pinot missed. Well, one other thing too, immediately on that part is George Bennett of Jumbo decides that, the team decides that he needs to go back and fill himself up with water bottles. He's up there getting water bottles. He's suddenly in the back of this split. There's like 3 groups all of a sudden. In the EF Education First is just getting washed through. You have Rigoberto Urán misses the split. Thibaut Pinot misses the split. Richie Porte misses the split. Jacob Fuglsang misses the split. And they have teammates in there, and they start to charge back. So the second chase group is getting really close to the front chase group with about 15K. And at one point, there's this little climb that they have categorized. I don't think it was categorized, but it was near the end. In about 12, 15K to go. And everyone just unloads the tanks. You have Tom Squeens, Mollema, all these riders for Trek up there doing what they can. Lutsenko is up there. EF Education First only has Rigoberto Urán. But as they come to this last climb, a bunch of the GC riders hit the front and they pound away to get back up to the group. And as they crest over the top, they're 11 seconds off of the front group of Ineos, Deceuninck, Quick-Step. But they can never close it down. They did the gamble of, we've got to unload this thing. We've got to try to do our best to just catch up to them, have our GC riders. It's a big gamble because now they didn't have any teammates with them. They're left to ride the rest of the race with about 10 guys in there. At one point, Landa comes through because he's got a mechanical. He'd been up in the front. Matter of fact, you had Movistar. Quintana makes the group. Korswick makes the group. Dan Martin makes the group. Caleb Ewing makes the group. Groenewegen did not make it. Michael Matthews and about 5 of his Sunweb guys did. Sagan, of course, makes it. I think the entire Ineos team is up there. At one point, they're polling. You have Movistar polling. Valverde's on the front. He starts having words with Luke Rowe. Luke Rowe says after the fact that what happens was Movistar rider, Landa had flatted and Movistar stopped pulling. So then Valverde rolls through the front and just starts kind of clogging up the works. And so Luke Rowe's like, look, man, I don't mind that you guys don't pull, but you got to get out of here. This isn't the kids leagues. That's actually something like one of the quotes he said. So the point is, Ineos, Deceuninck, Quick-Step, and Bora Hansgrohe just are on the front, full throttle. This group that had GC favorites that had missed out, which was about 11 seconds off, they end up stretching that out further and further and further until they are minute 40 or so. But let's get to the finish. Those guys obviously don't catch up. They're the big losers on the day. But as you come into the finish, Deceuninck Quick-Step gets on the front for Viviani, who was still up there. And then you had Michael Matthews' team with a K and a half to go, lighting it up on the front. There's like 5 of them. He's sitting in the hot, pretty easy chair. That's what it is. He's sitting in the easy chair coming up for the finish. On his wheel is Caleb Ewing. Wout van Aert's up there still. And as they hit around 250, Wout hits out first. Viviani starts to sprint. Those two start to make it. Caleb Ewing has to kind of fish his way through. You can tell he doesn't have the pop. Michael Matthews, who had the easy chair going up there with his team, is one of the last guys to try to jump. At this point, it's too late for him. And in the end, Viviani is taking over the lead. And at the line, Wout throws his bike for a very narrow half-wheel length win over Viviani. The expression on Viviani's face is priceless. It's one of those ones that makes my heart warm. And it's Wout van Aert does a very bold thing of posting up when it was way too close for him to be posting up. But he did, and he was right. Wout van Aert, first Tour de France, gets a win. You know, it reminds me, we talked about, was that the 2004 Tour de France with Lance Armstrong, one of the anniversary years. And in the first race that year, doing his first race was Cancellara, who started the race, the prologue, winning it. And then the bookend with the very last one in his first race was Boonen, Tom Boonen. They both get a win in their first race. And this reminds me of that because he's going to be, we talked about him being such a cyclocross star. And at some point, you're going to just say, oh, yeah, he used to ride cyclocross because he's going to have so many amazing wins and credentials to his name for the road. Wout van Aert gets first. Viviani gets second. Caleb Ewing third. Another third. I mean, he's got a lot of top threes this year. Michael Matthews in fourth. Peter Sagan in fifth. Jasper Philipsen, Colbrelli, Trenton, Nason, Van Avermaet, Alaphilippe, Thomas. So that's where you start. Amazing day. Bardet made that group too. He was 20th on the day. Let's take a look at the overall GC and kind of some guys that moved up and down. Alaphilippe stays in yellow, doesn't lose any time to Geraint Thomas, but inevitably he moves up because Ciccone went back to help Port, or he was missed out and was trying to help Port, so he drops way down. Like I said, Bennett had been in 4th place. He was all by himself. Those guys in that third group decided not to even try anymore. He was in 4th place. He was still trying on his own. He ends up losing 11 minutes or so today. So overall, you have Julian Alaphilippe in first. Geraint Thomas moves up to second at 112 back. Egan Bernal up to third, 116. Kruijswijk in fourth at 127. He takes over Bennett's spot. Bachmann, Moss, Adam Yates, Quintana, Martin, Ciccone, Pinot, Conrad, Uran. Rigoberto Uran drops 5 places down to 13th. He had previously been 8th, down to 318. That's a big loser. Romain Bardet kind of stands still. Fuglsang, Warren Barguil made the split. Richie Porte missed the split. And with that, you have just such a disappointment because he made it through stage 9. Stage 9 has been his nemesis, crashing out, stuff is happening. And then he misses this. What the biggest weird thing to me is Rigoberto Uran. Your team, you set the team up. They're going to be hitting the front. They're lighting it up. They are trying to shred everyone out, and all they do is put themselves in the meat grinder, and including Uran. Where was he? Why was someone like why is a Romain Bardet, Warren Barguil, a Nairo Quintana, these little guys able to be up there in the right position, and Rigoberto Uran is not? Why is Thomas not? I mean, why Thomas was? Why is Pinot not? What was Richie Porte? What was interesting was I heard Mikhail Kwiatkowski talking after the race, and he was like, "Look, we tried to do this at 50K to go. It didn't quite work out. EF had tried it. Okay, so this is on. From 50K to go that teams are going to try to be splitting it up. Why are you sending? Why are you sending Bennett back to get bottles at 20K to go? But you know what? He's not the guy for them for the overall. Maybe you think you don't want your big guys back there. You want them up there protecting Kruijswijk. Maybe you want Dylan Groenewegen up there in case the split, the sprint, they just miss out. So you send back George Bennett, who is perfectly fine because you only need him as support in the mountains. Maybe that was the reason he was getting bottles. I tend to think him being in 4th place, he's riding well. You don't risk that. So it's stupid to send him back for bottles at that point. Why is Uran not ready for this? These are things we want to know. There was some talk from Thomas that they went around a roundabout, and when things kind of really started to hit the fan, and Ineos went one way, Quick Step went one way, and he said they went the correct direction, and when they came around, they were suddenly in first place, and the team guys that had been pulling got slotted back to about 20 back. Okay, maybe that's so, but I still don't understand how you're missing out completely. That shouldn't be the reason why. It didn't gap you off. So it's very interesting to see that happen. Let's just do some roundup of some things we had here. TJ Van Garderen's out. Demarchy's out. How does TJ being out affect EF Education First? I don't know. Would it have helped them today? Maybe. Maybe it would have had one more guy to help pull to get Uran in the right position. I don't know. Possibly. Woods crashed with Thomas. It looked like Thomas is unscathed with that. I mean, he still looked fine today. How does that affect Woods? Woods seems to be okay. He said he was fine, but it didn't help him in the crosswinds today. Port not helping Ciccone. I think that could, before today, I would my thought on that was going to be, well, look, if he helps Ciccone just a little bit and he helps pull that back, what you're going to get in return is probably a Ciccone who's willing to dig even deeper for you at some point in the mountains and help you out. Maybe it would have helped them even more today if you show that you're going to be, helping your leader out, like you see Alaphilippe doing these things for his sprinters. Why is in yellow? I mean, they're going to reward him later on. So interesting. I don't know all the dynamics. We're just doing these from here. Richie Porte makes it past stage 9. We're happy for him, but then total failure for stage 10. Alaphilippe, he's chasing time. He's chasing yellow. Will this diminish him for week 3? The French are very excited about. Now, look, today, stage 6, they disappointed with Romain Bardet, and then they're excited about Pinot after stage 8, and then they're disappointed with Pinot for stage 10. but they're okay with Barguil and Romain Bardet. But thank God they have Alaphilippe. So Alaphilippe's still in yellow, but is he going to be something for the overall? I think when we hit these longer mountains, he's going to be going out the back. But I think he's going to be going out the back because of the way he's racing now. You can't be lighting it on fire day after day after day like he's doing and be okay in the third week. It's just not going to happen. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. Then we'll have to talk about the new way to race maybe, because you just don't see this happening. I'm enjoying it a lot right now, but in the results I don't think he's going to be able to last. Who is looking good? Well, I think Geraint Thomas is looking better. I mean, he's gone down a few times now, but he's been able, chased back and was able to really help himself out there in stage 8 when Woods took him out. Very impressive. He looked really good on La Planche de Belfi. Is it going to be? I don't think Bernal is the guy that everyone thinks he is. Once again, I'm going to revert back to how he did Tour de Suisse. He beat Rohan Dennis. That's who he beat. Okay. I mean, no offense to Rohan Dennis, but he beat Rohan Dennis. Now, Bernal is still Bernal, so I expect him to be top 5, but I really I see him off the podium a bit. Probably totally going to eat my words on that one. Rigoberto Urán, Pinot, I thought coming into today, those two were magical. They were looking great. Now, really disappointing. I don't know how that does with your morale. They had to put a lot of work in today. So you have Thomas, Bernal, Quintana. Quintana wasn't taking poles up the front today, getting all that time gap, a minute 30 some today on stage 10 with him. But meanwhile, Fuglsang, Porte, Urán, Pinot, these guys they drained themselves the last 20K working super hard. So they burnt a ton of matches, lost a ton of time, while I'm sure it was still difficult for Quintana, Thomas, Bernal to hang up there with that front group. They had a much easier time sitting in that fast pace on their teammates' wheels than these guys did chasing. Who looks bad and who's out? Well, Vincenzo Nibali. We haven't really talked about him. He had a bad day up La Planche de Belfi. Subsequently, the next on stage 8, he also spat out the back before the finish. He's obviously going to be looking for stage hunting, if anything, but he's done. I don't know who Bahrain Merida really has then for a GC. Probably nobody. So it'll be interesting to kind of that team was going to be more stage hunting, as we saw with Dylan Toynes. Warren Barguil, he did a really good. He made an attack on stage 6. Got caught, got dropped a bit. I think that climb is just unique. I don't want to read too much into what that climb will do for their overall, but I don't think he's the guy. I think he's going to be for stage hunting as well. Who needs a dramatic change in fitness? Well, I was saying Romain Bardet and maybe Steven Kruijswijk. Kruijswijk still looks fine. Once again, stage 6 is hard to see, but he faltered a little bit more than I expected on that one day. He is a little more of a grinding rider, kind of a Quintana-like. So maybe he needs some help. Now, what you really need is some sort of miracle for these 5 guys that lost a bunch of time today. Fuglsang, as an example, has been one that everyone's been kind of holding hope to. But what do we have coming up? We have a rest day. Then on Wednesday, we go Albi to Toulouse, 167 kilometers. It's got a few climbs, 3, 4, and a sprint. So it should be a sprinter's day. We should see a sprinter's day on Wednesday. Look for Groenewegen. Caleb Ewing has really got to get his win. He's been very close. Not many more opportunities. Then you have Thursday, Toulouse to Bagnères de Bigorre, 202 miles. A few more little category climbs coming near the finish. Maybe a sprinter's day. I mean, it looks like something that maybe those sprinters can get over, but maybe a breakaway coming out of that. And that'll be an interesting day because the next one on Friday is a 27-kilometer time trial. These riders, these GC guys, probably don't want to be risking their time trial. They could lose as much time in the time trial as they lost today, as a matter of fact. Look, Pinot went all out on stage 8 on Saturday to get 20, 30 seconds, and in the matter and got some, put out a lot of energy, and then in a matter of 15K, he loses over a minute, putting out probably just as much or more energy today. So, dramatic things can happen in the wind. Once again, the Friday time trial. Then you have the Saturday, you've got up to Tourmalet, 117 kilometers, so not a long stage, but you've got a summit finish. Sunday to Foix, it's another summit finish. Then you've got a rest day, and then you got a flat, and then you got some more climbing. So that's kind of what you have coming up. You're going to have some more GC days with the time trial and the climbs, a few days for the sprinters, a little bit mixed in, and we start to hit the Pyrenees. Let's do some odds and ends of the tour. There was a controversy about drafting on motorbikes. A bunch of guys have come out really upset about that. I think they were most upset because stage 8, they didn't think they could haul down. There are 2 French guys up the front, Pinot and Valverde, and the feeling is probably that they were getting helped out by motorbikes. There's been a new study that's come out that's basically shown that the advantage you get from a motorbike even 50 meters away. So what do? Well, I like good video, and we need to bring more people into the interest of this. So whether we start having bikes go way back, drones, maybe more on-bike footage we can have. Those are things to think about. But there probably needs to be, you really want to make sure you don't diminish the TV coverage. You want to have more and more of that, and I get the bikes are part of it. But as long as there's safety involved, maybe that drafting is just something you have to worry about. I don't know. How about some things that make you go, Well, this last week, there was motor doping reported in Italy. 2 riders were at a crit, and they were suspected of using a motor. At the end, they were asked by the race organizers they could have their bikes inspected. Both of them hurriedly went away, got in their van, and drove off. The race organization was trying to keep them, the other riders were trying to hold them there somehow while they called the police to have this done, inspected and have their bikes checked. So a few items of interest there. One, it should be noted that one of those guys, I think, finished 8th. So you have a motor on your bike, and the best you could do is 8th. Maybe I see why you have a motor on your bike. The other one was interesting. We're like, they got to inspect the bikes. Call the cops. Call the cops. That's interesting to me. I don't know. Is it a criminal? Maybe it's a criminal statute on the books to use a motorized bike for a bike race. Think about it here. If you're in the U.S., I know there's other countries that people listen, but would you call the police on someone for that? That doesn't seem like a criminal offense at all. If anything, it's a civil issue, but why were you getting the police involved? So I'm really interested. I mean, Italy really takes their motor doping seriously, maybe more seriously than and it seems like the UCI takes this more, they take a lot of things weird and serious. They're measuring sock height lately to make sure that that's not an issue. Anyway, I couldn't imagine calling the police or what the police would force you to turn over your bike. Seems like some rights infringements there, but people like to infringe on rights all the time, and maybe this is just another example of we've really got to make sure there's no one using a motor. That is one of the most. That's what we need to call our police force to come out and check. All right, some winners and losers. Definitely winners on the first few weeks there. Julian Alaphilippe, Thomas de Gendt, and Team Jumbo-Visma getting another win with Wout van Aert. They've got 4 stage wins. Everyone's different. Well, stage 2, was it 4? Maybe that's just 3 wins. No, Tunison gets win. They get a team time trial. They get Dylan Groenewegen, and now they get Wout. So they have 4 stage wins. Pretty impressive. They've obviously had a great tour. Kruijswijk, I think, is just going to put the cream on the crop of the cream of the crop. I don't know. He's going to put the something on the cherry on the top for them this year. I think should be able to get a top 5, possibly in the podium. Some losers, maybe Nibali. Michael Matthews and Caleb Ewan have been knocking on the door. They've been close. I think Matthews isn't, today he would have been outgunned. To him to get a win today would have been a little bit much against Ewing, Viviani. Obviously, Wout van Aert get it in there. So I'd say he's maybe been a little bit of a loser as well. But on the day is EF Education first. One of the big losers after today. Seeing them basically set the ball up, ready to spike it, and then just get blocked and hammered them. I mean, they had nobody in the front. They blew their entire team out setting this up, and it makes you wonder whose payroll are they on? Ineos, Deceuninck Quickstep. They did not do themselves any favors today. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining in. That's been episode 137. Give us some comments. I've always loved to hear some people chiming in their points of view on any of the opinions I had today that we take on the Between Two Wheels podcast. The next week should be coming up pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to more general classification battles. Some more of this, it's all we had to be reminded of today. You had wind taking out more time on the favorites than the 20-some% steep pitches of La Planche de Belfi. Pretty amazing. It's the way the Tour is. Just when you think you have it dialed in, it changes, it flips everything on its head. The only thing that hasn't flipped on its head is Ineos is still in the lead or at the lead, and they're looking very strong, and they're looking like they're going to be able to control it. Why did Ineos have, I think, all their guys make the break today, and EF Education First had none? Let's think about it. All right. Once again, check out the show on any of the podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Overcast.fm. Check us out on our YouTube page, Between Two Wheels Podcast, also our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And until next time, stay out of the wind.